I'm here with stand-up comedian Von DeCarlo.
Hello.
She's also the author of the new book, Fine Over 50. Definitely. I was researching you before the interview, and I saw like you grew up in Pennsylvania. It was a small town called Clairton.
Yes.
Okay, what is interesting about Clairton? I've never been there. Like I've been to Pennsylvania before, but that sounds like, an interesting place, like, very rural, at least according to Google.
Yeah, so Clairton, Pennsylvania is a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it is most definitely, working class. But when I saw the movie 8 Mile, because we're very Midwest people, but on the map, we're considered Northeast,
Okay.
but we're Midwest people. So, for instance, when I saw the movie 8 Mile, I was like Detroit, Eminem. But then when I saw, I was like, that's us, like working class, blue collar, struggling people. But I grew up there during the crack era. So my experience is, might be different than what it is there now. I don't think it's a lot different, to be honest. It's a lot of hardships there.
Yeah.
But our town, Clairton, Pennsylvania, is called the City of Prayer.
Oh, wow.
And, that's where it begins and ends with me. We may have had our, hood situations, like some bad situations, but we're grounded in faith. And that's the core of where I come from.
It's funny though, because I saw the interview and you were talking about like growing up in the projects and like you guys used to roast each other. And when I think of like Pennsylvania, like I don't think of like hood areas. I think of like the Amish. I think of like the wagons.
Well, you
and
know
stuff.
what?
Yeah.
When I moved to New York City, and I would say I was from Pittsburgh, because you say the bigger city because no one's going to know Clairton, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm from Pittsburgh. And people go, oh, Philly. And I always would respond like, wow, the American education system has failed us. Because Pennsylvania is a huge state, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Philly is closer to New York is in terms of being a tri-state area, whereas Pittsburgh is closer to West Virginia,
for sure.
Ohio.
Yeah, it's over there by like Ohio.
Right, exactly. So I would go, there's Pittsburgh, Amish people, Philly, and that's Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived in Pennsylvania for a brief period. I lived in York.
Okay.
It was a good experience. I love Pennsylvania. What was the experience of though being biracial? Like, because like I feel like now I'm even like a little bit more informed on it because of Barack Obama, like, and like I read his book and he talked about his experience of being biracial. Like when you were growing up, like, you have the joke, like, where you say like, I'm black and half white and that's just a fancy way of saying I'm black. Like, can you talk about like being biracial growing up in Pennsylvania?
Right. So where I'm from, I never met anyone who looked like me. It's like, okay, which one of your parents is white? Which one is black? And that's still just a fancy way of saying you're black. Like, that's just a saying from where I'm from. You on time? That's a fancy way of saying you probably gonna be late. Like, that's just how we talk. And being biracial black really didn't strike me until I started getting older, because my experience is that of a black person, of a black woman. Growing up in the projects, I grew up around my black side. I don't know my white side. I don't have a relationship with my white family. The only white person I know in my family was my mother, God rest her soul. And she was one of two like white people in the whole projects. So I grew up around my black side, which all look like you, in short. So me and my sister are the only light-skinned people really in our family. So as you grow older, you start to realize something's a little bit different about me. Something's a little bit different about my mom. But my experience was the same. But here's where it got different and heartbreaking for me is Pennsylvania is a very racist
for sure
place.
Yeah,
like we know
MAGA
this, right?
Country, sure.
So growing up, if you're getting called the N-word or getting chased home by the white kid, all that stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting chased home too. I'm getting called the hard ER N-word with the hard ER as well. But then when I'm home and back in my environment, back in the projects with everybody, now I'm fighting from within too. Oh, you light skin, you think you better, good hair, Oreo, Panda Bear, you name it, I've been called it.
Wow.
So it's like where do I belong? Where do I fit? Now, where I'm at as a person and as a woman, as a Black woman, today is I don't participate in colorism conversations. Right. I am a Black woman. I don't identify as a Black woman. You're not going to transition me in and out of the race. I am a Black woman. And anybody who does not see it that way or wants to move the goalpost, oh, if your dad is Black, you Black. No, if your mom is Black, you Black. You keep moving the goalpost. Y'all keep playing the colorism game. If 2 + 2 = 5 to you, have fun. But 2 + 2 = 4 where I'm at. And that does not dismiss the white side. I'm not dismissing my white mother, but I am a Black woman because that is the American experience. Tell me a point in time in our American history where I could pull out my half white card and go, I'm not a slave. You really? No, that it just doesn't exist. I am what I am. And whoever sees it differently, it's really their problem more than mine.
No, I get that. I feel like it's a very nuanced conversation. I interviewed Rachel Dolezal at one point, and she was telling me though, she identifies though, as African because she does have African ancestry, which I'm sure all people should because that's the origin of life. At some point. So I don't know. I don't really think about color like that, but I feel like you should be able to be identified however you want to be. If you consider yourself African, who is someone to tell you you're not African or you can't? It's a lot of silly conversations with that. But then I feel sometimes it gets confusing. For instance, Elon Musk, because he's South African and, lives in America now, is he African American? There's these semantic games that people try to play.
Right. Well, for me, I can't speak on Elon's experience or Rachel's experience. Whatever their experience is theirs. And I'm not going to compare my experience as a Black woman to a white man or a white woman.
For sure. And
regardless of what they are genetically identify as, that's whatever their experience is. Who am I to confirm or deny it? You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I was looking at an interview and you were talking about when you were growing up, one of the people you really admired was Whoopi Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of started your love of comedy. What was it about Whoopi Goldberg that you loved as a performer?
Whoopi Goldberg is the blueprint of confidence. You know what I mean? It's what I learned over the years, because I suffered from self-esteem issues, low self-worth, all the lack of confidence that Whoopi embodies, that it's just amazing to me, her presence and everything that she does. Nothing that is said about her seems to stop her flow of whatever it is she's doing. And I think without even understanding as a little girl what I was looking at when I first saw Whoopi, I didn't know the glow of confidence and energy that I was looking at. But I think that's at the core of what I was attracted to her in. I want to be like that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't necessarily just comedy and entertainment and acting, TV, film, and all of the things. It's that I learned over time that your confidence does not come from your beauty. Your beauty comes from your confidence. Beauty is from the inside out, not the outside in. You know what I mean? And Whoopi has embodied that her whole career, her whole life, from what we see from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I always loved her as a kid. I think I would watch Ghost, and then I would watch Sister Act. Me and my brother would watch Sister Act over and over because it was just so hilarious. And I think one of the things I really love about her is the fact that she makes really strong choices. And I know you've kind of talked a little bit about it before, because she's not considered a stand-up comedian. I know she comes from improv. What was your entry into comedy And I know like you've participated in improv as well. So like, how did you become like a stand-up comedian, like where you call
Right.
yourself a stand-up comedian?
Well, I don't have like a stand-up anniversary date like a lot of stand-up comedians. And that's because in my early running around New York City, early 2000s, it was doing stand-up comedy was just an extension of everything else I was doing. Because again, when I was 10 years old and I saw Whoopi do her one-woman show, I used to practice all the characters
Yeah.
and even like Carol Burnett was a huge influence when I was a kid
Yeah, she's
too, in terms
hilarious.
of her comedic acting. And so when I got to New York, my intention was to not just do comedy and stand up, but TV, film. You know, I've done a lot of these things.
Right.
So when I first got on stage and did stand up, it was literally just an extension of everything I was doing. I was always already doing sketch. I was already writing sketch, performing sketch, doing improv. I was working with a comedian who I don't believe is a comedian. He doesn't work in the business anymore, but we were working together, who I met doing extra work. And he was like the Weird Al Yankovic, but for hip hop.
Yeah.
Like he would do all the parody videos for hip hop songs. And he was hilarious. And we started working together doing sketch and man on the street interviews, everything that people do in seconds on their cell phones. We were renting equipment. I mean, this is early 2000, 2001, 2002. Like we were doing what people do on their phones easily. We were doing running the streets of New York. So I kind of partnered with him and started working with him. And he wanted to do a live show with we had a show on like the Manhattan Neighborhood Network and all kinds of stuff, right? So he wanted to do a live show where he would perform like his parody songs and stuff. And I was going to host it. So I was like, oh, you know, that's right. Let me get on stage and start working this material and do some open mics and stuff. So that's kind of how it started for me. I was tapping in and out of doing comedy, doing stand-up, amidst all the other things that I was doing. Oh, and fun fact, by the way, if you remember the BET Uncut era.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so fun fact, I, along with him, we had the first parody video, comedy video on BET.
Oh, wow.
And it was called TNA.
Okay.
And it was a parody of BET Uncut.
Oh.
So I had these balloons in my boobs and like these balloons that represented the big boob. And we were just, you know, it was a hilarious. And we were very proud when that got on because we're like, we're the first comedy video.
That's huge. Yeah.
Shout out Crazy Al Kane. I didn't say his name, but yeah, he's one of the first people I started working with in comedy in the early 2000s.
Man, that's incredible. Like you definitely like have been putting in the work. Like, you know, if you go back and look at all the stuff you've done, it's like, it was really amazing. Like,
Yeah,
you know, I was
man.
like, so the commercials and like all like, you know, this stuff. And when we were talking at the screening, you were telling me that you were in Upright Citizens Brigade. And I wanted to know, like, what is the difference stylistically between like Upright Citizens Brigade and like, you know, like Groundlings? Because I feel like, or like, you know, Second City, like, because Groundlings, like, you know, their style of comedy is like I cut my hand, let me get some salt. You know, it's like, you know.
I don't know, because I studied at UCB Theater and I had the diversity scholarship there. I discovered musical improv there. And then from there, I extended into the Pit and the Magnet Theater, where I was in a musical improv group. And which I love. I miss doing musical improv so much. But at the time, our group, which was called Good Catch Comedy, we were expanding. Every single person in our group was funny, witty, quick-witted on their feet, and everyone could sing, and everyone knew how to harmonize, and our voices blended together really well. So our group was getting a lot of momentum, but at the same time, I had started getting a lot of stand-up gigs. So I was missing rehearsals, and I was like, look, I'm going to be honest. If I have to make a choice, which at this point it seems like I do, I'm not going to these festivals for musical improv. I'm going for stand-up comedy, because stand-up is where I'm grounded and where this is my career, as opposed to, not musical comedy couldn't be my career, but it just wasn't at the forefront of my focus. It was just another extension of the things that I was doing. So yeah, I don't, to answer your question again, I don't know the differences. I just know I can only speak to my own experience.
I think like one of them, like, you know, you kind of answered it, like, to me, I don't know, like, you know, for sure, but I don't think like those other, like, you know, improv groups do like musical comedy as far as I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I'll have to Google that and like, but
I think that I was so good at and enjoyed improv so much when I was in the mix and doing it is because it's the yes and aspect of improv and just mirroring. And when I studied acting, I studied all different techniques, and I was really attracted to the Meisner technique, which is a lot about mirroring.
Acting when we're acting.
So improv, for me, speaking from my own experience, improv tapped into that skill of mirroring, which I'm really good at.
Yeah. Meisner, definitely, like, I feel like it's very fun. Like, I like the exercises that they do, like with Meisner, which is like, that was like when I started acting, like my first acting class was Meisner, and I really like enjoy, like, I feel a lot of that is like common sense. You know, what has been like, you know, for you balancing all these different things that you do, because it's like you've done so much, like, you know, from the commercials, you know, to hosting, like, you know, a podcast like about the NBA, like, you know,
that was a radio show.
radio show.
It extended from my podcast. I had a podcast called Coach Vaughn Podcast, which my social media actually started. I built my social media from doing what I would consider sports comedy. Like, I would be on Twitter calling the games, but I would make it funny. And they started calling me Coach Vaughn as a joke. Like, you know more than Coach Damn Tony. I would call him Coach Damn Tony. That was the coach of the Knicks at the time during the Nate Robinson era. I call it the Nate Robinson era because that's who was the face of the Knicks at the time and one of my favorite players of all time. But my podcast, Coach Vaughn Podcast, extended out when I started working at SiriusXM at the time. Godfrey, I was doing he had a show on Urban View, and he, I was his fill-in basically when he was out. I was in.
Oh, nice, yeah. And
from that point, working on Urban View, they became familiar with me, and I used to be a guest on the SiriusXM NBA channel a lot. So I ended up getting my own show, which was a huge check mark in my goals of life and my claim to accomplishments, because I was the first woman and the first comedian to host her own show on the SiriusXM NBA channel. And it was short-lived.
Yeah,
it was very short-lived. It was right before COVID.
It's still a huge accomplishment, though.
Oh, yeah. You can't, if all I need is that for my resume, you know. But I was very focused on sports and sports comedy at a certain point. And then COVID happened, and then, you know, I shifted again. But yeah, getting back to what you were saying in terms of juggling all these things, and this is just all the things I'm juggling and working on professionally, but at the same time, I'm a woman, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, you know, all of these things in real life. And I don't know how I did it outside of just my faith in God and just believing that I have a purpose in everything that I'm doing. And I will say, as a creative who has a lot of different skills, which I think a lot of comedians are usually very talented people and can extend out in so many different directions. But there was a point where I felt like I was like a master, what do they say? Jack of all trade, master of none type of person. But it's okay to have multiple skills, but I do believe there needs to be a foundation. And for me, that's stand-up and writing. And everything now extends from there.
That's really well said. And I love what you're doing too. Like with your second book, Fine Over 50, can you talk a little bit about like the inspiration behind that?
Well, I was on the cusp of turning 50, and God said, "You're writing a book." And I was like, "Excuse you?" No, I don't think so. I talk about my age on stage and age-related material, and I've always been open about my age. I believe lying about your age, especially as a woman, it disempowers you, and why should I give my power away? But I do understand the pressure of it, especially in the entertainment business. I don't look my age, and in our business, especially on the acting side and casting, you are what you look like. So if you look 35 to 40, that's your age. If you look 40 to 45, that's your age. I can't necessarily get cast as a 50-plus-year-old woman, right? Unless it's for a specific role where she looks a bit younger. So I get from that perspective that you shouldn't lie about your age. But as a stand-up comedian, when I'm on stage, I feel like you need to know who's talking. You need to know this OG. You need to know. And a lot of people don't like that term, OG, auntie, unc. I embrace it. Call me OG. Call me Ms. Vaughn. I am, okay with my age. And especially in stand-up comedy, you need to understand the depth of experience that is coming from my comedy. Because my comedy is from lived experience. It's authentic. It's not like just stuff I made up out of the clear blue sky. So I think it's important as a stand-up that people understand the depth of the woman that is speaking on that stage and making you laugh and think and feel. But when God said I was going to publish it, I was like, I ain't say I was going to publish my age. Like, no. So I did kind of argue with God about that. And, God always wins. God is always right and on time and ahead of time. And ironically, when my mom passed January 11th, 2024, I realized, I said, God is such a good God and so intelligent and such a genius because he downloaded this book into me at a time where he knew I would need to read it myself. Mm-hmm. So when my mom passed, I'm in a process of still writing, but editing and structuring and putting the book together. And as I'm reading it, I thought I was writing a book that would inspire others, but it reminded me of the wisdom that I had collected over the first half of my life that has kept my head above water, that has kept me hopeful, that has kept me in a business where youth prevails. And I was told I was done at 30 and I might as well hang it up as a woman because who are you going to be as an old lady? And I was called an old lady in my 30s in the entertainment business. I'm glad I didn't listen. I'm glad God put all of this strength and courage and resilience in me. And that's what my book is about. The book isn't about me. The book is about using my insights and personal experiences and stories and wisdom that I've gathered to help the reader connect deeper with their own self and their purpose.
I have heard, in the entertainment industry that it is difficult for women as they age. Do you feel that's changing? Because you see, stories like, June Squibb, for instance, it was like she's in her 80s and she's just booked her, first leading role in a feature film. So, do you feel like, that gives you hope for your own career, moving forward in the future?
That was already there in my mind. So, especially with acting, right? It always was in the back of my mind, like, this is kind of silly because how do you age out? Yeah, you're going to age out of the 20-something-year-old roles. But in TV and film, there's a whole dynamic. There's a whole world that they have to cast. Right. So in my young mind, when people were saying, oh, if you don't make it by the time you're 25, you're probably not going to make it, quote unquote, and all that stuff. I'm like, well, the majority of the people that think that's in the business that tap out and quit, that's less competition in the casting room for me, because they are going to have to cast someone 40. They are going to have to cast someone 50. They are going to have to cast someone 80. And if Rose in Titanic, the old lady that threw the necklace in the ocean, if that's all she got and she stuck through it, then amen to her, right? So I always, it's a weird dynamic in life where you feel the pressure of what you hear outside of yourself. But if you stay locked in and closer to yourself and center and the source of God, your purpose will ring louder than any outside voices and validation.
That's beautiful. Like, I think, like, it shows, like, that you have a strong foundation. Would you attribute, like, a lot of those lessons from your mom?
Yeah, all of them. Well, not, I mean, you live life, but I just want to give
Yeah.
everything to my mom, God rest her soul. But yes, I get my funny from my mom. I get my faith from my mom. My mother whispered to me often when I was a kid, you can do anything you put your mind to it as long as you believe it. I watched my mom sit in her room reading the Bible. I watched my mom have faith through her own hardships and her own struggles. And she made us laugh through all of it. That's why I believe I'm able to take a subject as sensitive as death and make it funny on stage, because my mother's humor, and even where I'm from in Clareton, Pennsylvania, it's a lot of people like that. We laugh through everything. That was our survival
Right.
technique. And you mentioned earlier about the roasting. It wasn't just the roasting. It was how we connected, teasing each other, because roasting for me, if we don't know each other like that, I'm straight facing everything you said. You don't get to say things to me or about my friend or my mother or my cousin the way
Yeah.
the way we snap at each other. You're not a part of that. It could be considered a threat. That's where I'm from. That's a threat. Who is this? What'd he say? But if my cousin said it and we're cool like that, then we're roasting, we're snapping. So in a comedic sense, and pulling the idea of roasting into our industry, I think sometimes people take liberties just because we're comics, but I need to remind you the layers of who I am as a person. Check in with yourself before you come at me, because we're not just comics. Do we know each other like that?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, so, like, you mentioned Whoopi Goldberg, and, like, she's one of, like, the people, like, I grew up admiring, but, like, one of, like, the most disappointing moments, I would say, like, is that roast she's at where, like, Ted Danson is in blackface, and she's like, oh, because it's funny. And, like, I understand, like, like, you're a comedian, like, being funny, but, like, when does being funny become, like, this could be offensive to other people, like, and stuff in that particular instance, because, she's obviously a person who's Black and, like, celebrated as an icon, but then she's next to, like, Ted Danson, he's wearing blackface. You see what I'm saying?
Right. No, that was a very crazy moment in time, right? And I feel like as comedians, at some point, we've all done something that is like, I probably shouldn't have did that, or that wasn't funny, or the attempt was funny. The defense as a comic is to go, I want to defend the attempt to be funny, but I also have to acknowledge that, sure, this may be falling into the distasteful category. Now, it takes experience sometimes to get there. I'm speaking from a place where I understand the power of my words. I understand that some people might be offended by certain things that I do or say. And just me saying, okay, whatever I'm going to put out there, I have to stand on that. I have to know that I'm not doing this just to exploit something or just to get a laugh. What's my why, And that's just me personally as a comedian. At this point, I look at what's my why, and if this piece of material that I'm doing on stage or what have you, if this is going to be misunderstood or misjudged, or someone will take it a particular way, is what I'm saying, does that rise above? Because the other side of it is people that it will connect with, right? So just for me personally, I can't speak for no other comic, and I most certainly can't speak for Mrs. Goldberg, okay? Speaking to my own experience, as you grow as a person, as you grow as a woman, as you grow as a comic, for me, you come to a place where you go, okay, there's a lot of jokes I could do just to get a laugh.
Yeah.
I could be vulgar. I don't do vulgar comedy. I could do all the low-hanging fruit. I probably get somewhere quicker. It's just not...
Yeah.
I do have the ability to do it. Could I lean on certain things and be Sure. That's not the lane I want to be in.
Right.
At the point I'm at in my life, in my career, in my spirituality, me as a person, me as a woman, me as a spirit, I'm standing on being responsible with my words. And that doesn't mean I'm cookie cutter.
Right.
I'm
right.
still edgy, but it's with a purpose that I can stand on.
Have you ever been in a situation though where you face backlash or public criticism for something you said? Or
Yeah.
do you talk about it?
No. You think I want to open those doors back up? No, I don't. I don't believe in living backwards.
Yeah,
but yes,
of
there's even some of the material I do now, people have their opinion about it. And
well, you can't. We live in a world like I feel though you can't make everyone happy because there's always like polarizing groups. Like if you say one thing, then you're a Zionist. If you
right, that's exactly where I was about to go, and just narrowing it to being a stand-up comedian. Right, you're on stage, and let's say there's 200 people in the crowd.
Yeah,
you can't please possibly everyone there absolutely loves everything that comes out your mouth. That in the perfect world, great. Everyone's laughing. That's wonderful.
Right.
But the reality is it may be 200 people in a room and in the first 10 minutes, everybody's on board. And then in the middle of your set, it seems like only about 50 people is digging this. And then somewhere along the way, nobody's digging it. And then somewhere along the way, 100 people. It shifts, right? It may shift. So if me as a stand-up, if I'm on stage trying to pander and please every single... now I don't know my voice. Now I don't know who I am. You have to stand 10 toes down on what your funny is, what you're talking about, what your point of view is, what your perspective is. And the way I handle it is in that same scenario, if it's 200 people in a room and 5 people are digging it, I feel the energy of them and then I just talk right to them.
For sure.
This is right now who I'm talking to. And if the laughter is contagious in it, eventually these people come aboard. If not, that's fine. But I've already decided what I stand on here. And whoever comes aboard, that's great. Whoever doesn't, that's fine too. I did a joke. It was a joke that talks about suicide, which is a huge, sensitive topic, right? And I have a certain point of view that I talk about on stage. After the show, this woman comes up to me and she hands me her card. And she was from Better Health. And I go, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. She was like, no, I'm giving you my card because I love what you just did on stage. And that was hard, what you just did, to make something so sensitive, funny, have a point of view, and then make people think. She's like, I want to figure out how to work with you. And she said, I started working with Better Health about a year or two ago. I lost my son to suicide. So for a woman who works in suicide prevention, who lost her son to suicide, say, hey, what you're doing with this, I want to work with you. That's meaningful. Now, there may be someone in the audience that had a complete different experience and could have come up to me like, you need help. Or someone could have come up to me and said, I lost someone to suicide and what you're making light of it. But in the material, I'm really not, if you're listening, right? So again, getting back to the point, how do you just stop in the middle of your set and figure out how to please all these people? You don't.
Yeah.
You stand on what you've prepared to say, do. You hope that people, as far as for me, I hope people listen and laugh and feel something. And for those that don't, that's fine too. My intent is not to hurt anyone or offend anyone. I don't like doing crowd work. I'm not a fan of. I'm not an insult comic.
Yeah.
I like my material. I want you to enjoy my material. I'm not here to insult you or your job or interview the audience. Oh, what do you do? That's not my lane at all. Plus, I know as a headliner the responsibility and how hard it is to get people to come out to see a show. The last thing I want to do is see people walk out. I tell people who are opening for me, don't walk my crowd. You do that when you sell tickets. Go on
Right.
and walk your crowd. But usually the people who are hosting or featuring for me are material people. And if you do crowd work, I'm not against it. It's an incredible skill if you're good at it and if you're into it. But if not, I'm like, don't just go table by table insulting people. You know, that's not what I want my shows to feel like.
And I think there's been some criticism online, like where I've heard some other comedians talk about where they say, like, they feel like that's the idea of like all stand-up comedy is nowadays. Like, like people have this idea that it's just the crowd work and, people, making fun of people like in the show.
I've experienced that. I've experienced at shows where some crowds are a bit chatty. And you're like, oh, especially the younger people in the crowd, who this may be their first comedy show and they've only seen clips on TikTok or Instagram or social media. And it's the crowd working comics that they're in love with. And again, I'm not insulting that form of comedy at all, but when the audience members, this is all they see and they think this is what comedy is, they do become a bit chatty and maybe impatient with material. But this is the thing. Every comic isn't for everybody, right?
For sure.
I look at comedians like we're doctors. Find your doctor. You might recommend a primary care physician to me and go, I love my doctor. You have to go to this doctor. But I go to your primary care doctor and I'm like, Ryan, why would you recommend me to this, right? That's comedy. Find your doctor. If your doctor is a crowd working comic where you're going to sit in the front and participate like that, go to those shows. But I dare ask you not to go to a show where there's a comedian that's not doing crowd work, that's doing straight material, and then you're interrupting their rhythm and interrupting their flow, thinking that you're supposed to be participating. Sometimes as the audience, you need to read the room.
When did you know stand-up comedy was your creative medium? Because you are good at so many other things and you've had success, as an actress, doing commercials. Like, why did you decide, like, stand-up comedy? You seem very passionate about it and serious about the craft. Why stand-up comedy? What was it about it? And what moment did you know, like, this could be your career?
I feel like how do I say? I don't want to sound cheesy or cliche, but stand-up comedy is like the only place I really feel free. Right. On stage is where I could kind of just let go of everything. And I'm using all of those skills at one time, be it my wizardry and reading the room and reading the energy and using my power to shift the energy in the room and bring the energy to me. Or if it's my writing, like, okay, I have this material, I wrote this joke, right? That's my writing side. And sometimes you're doing act outs where you have to perform certain things or characters or whatever you're doing on stage, right? So I feel like maybe because stand-up pulls in all of those skills at one time, it just feels the most freeing to me. And is there a moment in time where I realized that? I don't know. I just feel like there was a moment in time where I felt like I had to stop. I went in and out of stand-up for so long and didn't have it as a focus. I think once I said, let me just focus here. And then everything kind of clicked from there.
Yeah, like that's beautiful. Like, I think, like, I hear, like, the passion and, like, I think it's great, like, also to have like other interests, especially like, with the book. Can you talk a little bit about, like, how long did it take you to prepare this book and what was it different from the previous book you did, like Speak Fluent Man?
The primary difference is this book is not a memoir. The first book was a memoir. Okay. This book, again, it's a book that's focused on using my experiences for the reader to discover themselves through me, as opposed to a memoir where it's like, here's these stories about me, and you're learning more about me as the author. This book is about the reader discovering themselves.
Yeah. That's,
And as far as preparing for it again, I could barely take credit for this book. God downloaded this book into me and insisted that I complete this book. And I feel like this book is very anointed. I truly believe that God used me as a vessel for this book. And I hope that I grab the ears of the youngest person possible, because I don't want people to be confused about the title. Fine Over 50 it's not about being 50.
Right.
It is not about, I'm not an expert at being 50. I just got here, right? This is about getting there with confidence and resilience and fighting all those voices in your head and people in the outside world saying, you're too old to do this, or you're too young.
Yeah.
This book helps you center and connect with your purpose and your inner light.
You know, what's something now at age 51 you would tell your young...
put that one in there.
your younger self. Well, I like to be accurate, you know. Yeah.
What would I tell my younger self?
You know, your 20s, maybe like, you know, even in your teens.
I would tell myself, whether it was my teens, 20s, 30s, or 40s, and I will remind myself in my 50s and beyond, do not seek outside validation. You do not need anybody to validate your purpose. God put in you whatever that is. And I'm not saying outside critique or even outside praise is a bad thing. I'm saying don't lean into it.
Right.
Take the meat, leave the bone. You know what I'm saying? You don't believe the hype, good or bad.
For sure.
Because you can be addicted to the applause just as much as you could be crippled with the criticism. You have to be able to take I love what you did, or I hate what you did, hear it, learn from it, but still stand in your center and in your core. I struggle, again, with low self-esteem, low self-worth, seeking outside validation, especially from men, and especially in a male-dominated business, seeking outside validation. Like, do you think I'm funny? Yeah, all types of low self-esteem antics throughout my whole life. And I'm not exempt from them now. It's just that I've grown and evolved, and I recognize when I'm feeling low, or when I'm feeling insecure, or when I'm even seeking an outside validation from someone. I would tell my younger self at any age, and like I said, as I continue to live, I remind myself, your purpose is between you and God, and you don't need nobody else to validate it.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Being a woman in stand-up comedy, you mentioned it being male-dominated. You know, what has that experience been like? And, you know, being a woman of color.
Horrific.
What is some women though I've talked to, they have said, look, like it's horrible because it's like guys are always trying to smash, and like, you know, like a lot of the
oh my God, yeah, if I look in your eyes for too long and say hello, I must want to sleep with you. Like it can be I mean, it can be very layered, right? I'm at the point now where I'm so focused on just what I'm doing. I try to be very in and out of situations and clubs and things like that. And there is community amongst comics, but it's not always comfortable and fun and exciting. We have a social lifestyle, and sometimes that social environment, there can be liberties that are taken that shouldn't be.
Right.
There's people drinking, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm always reminding myself, Vaughn, you're probably the only sober person in this room, and I'm trying to have a straight conversation with somebody who's completely wasted, but you can't tell because they're functioning. Yeah. So it's just like, you know what, sure, whether it's comedy or corporate America, women deal with a different type of pressure.
For sure.
And it's something that either it's going to make you or break you, you know? What can you do about it besides be very, very bold in your boundaries?
Yeah, like that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I think like comedians, like, you know, just having like known some of them, and like I see, like, you know, especially like with substances, like why that would be like, you know, I don't know, like it would be like, you know, a difficult situation sometimes for women, especially like it being male dominated. But yeah.
What do you mean with drinking? Or?
Yeah. Like especially like you not drinking and smoking too. Like, you know, there's
Oh, I feel like there's been times where I feel like I've been straight told, and I'm not gonna say the name because I'm cool with this person. It cracked me up and I appreciated their honesty. And this was hella years ago. And I had asked this particular person, I said, so who do you have featuring for you? Can I, get some road work or whatever? And they were like, Vaughn, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you ain't fucking, you ain't coming on the road with me. And I was like, touche. Appreciate your honesty. And I never did do it, go on the road with that person. But it's like at least y'all know. At least you know, right? And it tickled me.
It's real.
It's real. Look, as a headliner myself, you want people in your environment that do the things that you do, maybe.
For sure.
For me, you don't have to do nothing but show up and do your job, and don't create no funky weird energy. And I'm an energy person,
right.
Don't make the room weird, whether it's the green room or the stage, the crowd. You know what I mean? I don't ask for much. We don't have to hang out and kick it. We ain't got to kick it, but you do want like minds around you. So I get it. If you're the type that party. And this isn't just work for you. It's a party. It's a party.
Well, like
I have no judgment.
Well, the business aspect of it would be like I would want the best person. Like I'm not a comedian, but like I would want
absolutely. I want the show to be good from beginning to end.
Yeah, like
I don't want it to just be good when I'm on stage.
But that's kind of like a trivial like aspect. I feel like that would. That would bother me personally. Like, if somebody told me like something like that for a podcast, I'd be like, I couldn't be, if there was like a podcast convention, I can't come because I'm, I wouldn't be in that position, but like, it would be upsetting to me a little bit.
Look, it goes both ways. I've heard the opposite stories, females saying the same thing to guys. It's like younger comics. It's not unprecedented, right? This is the entertainment business. And I just feel like with all the things that's happening in the world with, the Harvey Weinsteins and the Dittler and the baby oil king and, all the things, right? I think what's happening is there's a shift. And I've always believed that people always say, the entertainment business is just a bunch of bad people. And I'm like, I don't believe that's true because I'm in it and I know I'm a good person.
Right.
I can't be the only good person. You just have to connect with other good people.
For sure.
And I think the shift that's happening with all of these things coming to the surface and being brought to the light, all the darkness being brought to the light, it's going to create room, I feel, for the good people to rise and be in power so that there is no casting couch. There's no casting couch. You're cast because you're just good.
Right.
You fit the part, you're good at this. And it's like you get through this business without doing sexual things to get parts and to get things. But it seems like what gets put out in the forefront is, in order to make it, you have to do all these things. And it's just not true. That's not been my experience.
Right.
I know how to say no. And I know how to accept that I may not get something because of that no.
Yeah.
If I got to do something outside of my moral compass to get something, that's not meant for me. That's not aligned with God. That's not aligned with my purpose. So you could keep it. I don't care if it's a Marvel film. You can keep it because that's not going to sit well in my soul and my spirit.
Right.
I'll take a smaller part in something or nothing that's going to align with my purpose. And that's hard to do. It's easier said than done. Everybody comes to that place where you're like, well, should I? No, you shouldn't. You should take the longer road.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think actually like a lot of times too that turns out to be a trick because like, there was plenty of women who slept with Harvey Weinstein and they didn't get
everybody can't get the part. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's going to be one girl out of the 200 or whatever it was, I don't know, that there's a part, insert whatever part, and this power that be is the person to go through or what have you. And and just from my experience as a producer on the behind the camera position in the world of entertainment, it's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
That one person that has power, there's also other people. And you start playing political politics within even a film. Even the smaller films,
right.
there's ebb and flow in that as well. So you sleeping with everybody, all 200 of y'all for this one part. It just doesn't make. It never made sense to me.
Yeah.
It never made sense to me.
No, you from New York? Did you ever go to a Diddy party?
No, I was never invited, and I have worked with Diddy once, and it's funny because I'm like, I'm insulted. Why ain't I getting invited to the grape? You know, where's my cash in? But I worked with Diddy once on the Proactive commercial.
Okay.
Now,
I remember that. Yeah, that was it.
Vanessa Williams. Yep. So in my come up in New York, I did a lot of background, extra work, and stand-in work. So every light-skinned Black woman that was around 5'7", 5'8", at a particular time in my era of the come up in New York City, I was their stand-in. Vanessa Williams, I was her stand-in for 2 years or 2 seasons of the Proactive commercial. So you know what a stand-in is.
Yes,
you do all the things, but while they sit in their green room with their dog and their fine brother. Shout out. And you do all the teleprompter, the lighting. They test the lighting to your skin. You have the exact same wardrobe. You do all the things. So I did my job as her stand-in, and then in the second season, when Diddy was on it. Now, I don't know why he was on a Proactive commercial. Maybe he was trying to clear his pores. I don't know. But he was on it, and he came in. He had his whole entourage. He is just as controlling as people say. Like, he did not have a stand-in. He wanted them to test the lighting on his skin, himself.
Yeah.
And he says to the cinematographer, this little older lady, looked like a librarian. He comes up to her. He's like, you know how this makes me laugh every time. You know how I look in my music videos where I'm chocolatey and glistening. Make it look like that. And I'm looking at this little older lady like, I don't know if she has ever seen a Diddy video. Can't stop, won't stop. But that's just me observing his control of his image and what he wants to do and his whole entourage and the whole 9 yards. And this is my only Diddy story. Nothing happened. If they ever asked me about working with Diddy, I could probably just defend him. Like, well, he does need the baby oil because he wants to look glistening on camera. Like, I don't know. But I, with all jokes aside, truly believe that you carry a certain energy with you. Right. I don't carry I'm going to come to a Diddy party and drink, do drugs, and have sex with you. You wouldn't approach me for something like that. I'm not that person.
Right.
And I don't carry myself as if I am. So he probably, if he was thinking about it, he was like, not her. She probably gonna cause some trouble. She says no. She has the energy of a woman that says no.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you definitely have energy. I was nervous about you coming on the podcast.
I get that. Why do people feel like the intimidating factor? Tell me what that is.
It wasn't necessarily like you were
before.
Intimidating. Like, I feel like maybe like I have better things to do. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like,
here's the thing. I remember when I first started, I booked a few commercials in New York back to back, like GNC, Carnival, like all these commercials, and they were out there.
Yeah, I've seen some of those commercials too. Like,
they were out there. They were getting renewed. All the things, worldwide, global campaign. And I stopped getting spots, and I started hitting up some of the bookers like, I haven't gotten a spot in a while, and they're like, oh, I didn't think you would want to do spots anymore because you have these commercials. I'm like, in what world do I get a commercial? And I get it. I get the perception of this business is that you get to a certain level and then you don't do certain things. And, and you do have to vet things, and you do have to be more mindful of the things that you do as you expand and as you grow. But I don't look at it like, oh, I'm too good or too busy. If I'm actually too busy to come here, it's because I just genuinely could not come here. And there will be a place and time where, booked and busy is a real thing, but it's not an above something place. At what point am I above doing spots? Like I got to work my material. I don't give a damn what you see on TV. I have to work this material. So I get that. And it's a indirect compliment in the way as far as perception goes. But no, I take a very humble stance in the business, and especially in comedy will humble you at every turn.
How so?
What Chris Rock say, here today, gone today. Right? This business is up, down, up, down. When it's hot, your phone's ringing. But when your phone's not ringing, you almost feel invisible. Like, is this thing on? Even like I'm on TV, I have these commercials, but the stand-up phone call stopped. And I'm like, y'all know y'all remember, hey, remember me? You walk into a club like, hi, remember me? Oh, you do know me. Why ain't you booking me? Oh, because you on a commercial. Can I please get 5 minutes, please? And sure, let's have this conversation again when I'm selling out theaters.
Definitely. I'd love to come see you at a theater. Where are you going to be performing next, like your upcoming shows?
I'm leaving for New York soon. I'm going back home, my second home, New York City. I am so excited. I'm part of the New York Comedy Festival. I'm going to be headlining a show, thank you, at Rodney's. November 13th.
Okay.
Please, if you hear my voice, come see me live. I will have books to sign. I'm doing meet and greets after every show. After New York, I'm headed to Atlanta Comedy Theater on the 30th of November. Then back here in Hollywood, I am doing a show at the Hollywood Improv Lab. And that's December, I want to say 4th. And then I'm closing out the year. My last headlining date is going to be in Dallas, at Dallas Comedy Club on December 28th. I need to sell out all these shows, people. Please, please. I humbly ask.
Definitely, yeah. I'm gonna definitely check you out at the one in LA, for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on, and definitely. What do you hope people take away from your book, Fine Over 50?
Again, one, don't be confused with the title. It is not about being over 50. It's about getting there with confidence and resilience. And also the word fine, it's a play on words. In our world, you hear fine and yes, vanity. But it's really not just about being fine physically. It's about being fine with yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And what I hope the reader gets from this book is that they get a closer relationship with themselves, which is basically a closer relationship with God and their purpose.
Most definitely. It's beautiful and well said. Von DeCarlo, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. funnyvon.com, funnyvon.com. Links to everything, to the book, tickets to my shows, and my social media is my name, Von DeCarlo, but funnyvon.com is just my easy links to everything.
Most definitely. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.